Hello and a very warm welcome. This is the open house webinar for the Fairplay Harp School. Thank you if you've come along live and thank you if you're watching the replay. The goal of this webinar is to take you through what's happening in the Fairplay Harp School in 2022, the summer term, summer for me in the UK. So this is the April, May, June, July term. And so I'm going to show you what we've got going on. And you at the end, the people who are here live are welcome to ask questions. I'm also going to give you some discount codes at the end of the session. And also I would like to invite everybody who's come live into one of my immersion courses for free. So you will just get that sent out to you. You'll get an invitation after the webinar. So first of all, I'm going to give you a little introduction in case you don't know me. So my name is Shelley Fairplay and I'm the founder of the Fairplay Harp School, and it began as START HARP. So I'm going to talk to you about the 3 levels of START HARP in a moment. And I kind of had a vision with START HARP that I wanted to make the harp as accessible as possible, and I wanted to take away many of the excuses that I'd heard over the years for people not beginning the instrument. So, you know, you're out playing for gigs and for weddings and concerts and things, and people would come up at the end and say, "Oh, the harp is lovely. I always wanted to play the harp, but," and I stored all the buts in my head for years, and they were ringing in my head things like, you know, I haven't got the time, I can't find a teacher, I can't travel to the teacher, I do shift work, I'm full-time carer at home, whatever the reason, or the harp is expensive. That was of course another big one. And so I made it my goal really to try and make the harp, my life goal really, to try and make the harp as accessible as possible, both through the styles of music that I play and through the way that I teach. So START HARP is designed to take you from your very first steps, level 1 is, very first steps, having never read music. If you've never read music, you can come straight along and jump straight in on the harp. And having never improvised, having never played by ear, having never learned any technique on the instrument. And you can do it on a harp, as I originally wrote it for a 17-string harp without levers, which is a harp that you can often find not too expensively. It's sort of an accessible instrument, an accessible purchase, alongside the courses as well. Then you can find your bigger harp afterwards. If you want to go to a Celtic instrument or pedal one, of course you can, but this course allows you to come in on that harp that is not so expensive. So that's hopefully making it more accessible. I had a wonderful lady who took the very first beta test of the course, called Fiona, lovely Fiona, thank you Fiona, who insisted I made it work on a 12-string harp because she had a 12-string harp. So in fact, if you have a 12-string harp, you can take START HARP 1 and 2 as well. So as I say, these courses were made to be accessible because I'm just very passionate about sharing music and passing on knowledge and the joy of this incredible instrument. So START HARP was born originally as a book, and the book itself was a book that had started you again from not reading music and taught you a little bit of improvisation and everything along the journey. But when I finished the book, it was just very flat. It didn't seem to have it just felt the same as all the other books. I didn't feel there was any sort of room in it, any sort of, I don't know, no community, no support, and I just really then put it in the corner and it gathered dust, okay? And this book sat there for about 5 years until I was inspired by the wonderful Deborah Henson Conant, who many of you will know if you are in the harp world already. If you're not, go and check her out, a phenomenal electric harpist, teacher, composer, an all-round person. She had online courses. I took some and it inspired me to turn my book into an online course, and originally that was under a mentorship, in fact, with Deborah. So START HARP 1, you can do that from complete beginner, and then I'm going to talk about the other courses in a minute, but I just want to also share with you a little tiny bit about me. So I have been playing now for 30 years, and I've been teaching for over 20, and I studied to be a classical musician originally. I did a degree and a master's in music and master's in music performance, and then I came out of that and realized I had never learned to improvise or to play by ear. So I then spent a lot of time seeking out different teachers and a different style of tuition, and that brings me on to my main sort of passion really for the whole school, which I will also share with you today. And I then learnt to teach in schools. I actually had a PGCE and spent time in the classroom. I then went around schools doing workshops, whole class harp teaching, crazy things to do, and working sort of in band situations with other musicians as well, going through into schools. I have a teaching diploma from the Associated Board of the Royal Schools of Music as well. And whilst this is not as high grade as the actual degree and things, sometimes people like to know about the grade 8 distinction as well. So I did all these qualifications, but it's really when you get out on the road and start teaching and playing that it really matters. So thank you to every student and teacher past and present for enabling me to create the school. So What is the Fairplay Harp School? What have we done? We've talked about the Start Harp level 1. There is also level 2, level 3, and they are all running starting on the 1st of May 2022. There is also a pop course and a modes course running this term, which I'm going to talk to you about. Modes Reloaded, it's called, and then Pop with Pizazz. And there are also immersion courses taking place this term. And there's the Dynamic Harps Virtual Ensemble, which you can join for free, even if you sign up for nothing else today. So that's what I'm going to tell you about in this session. My biggest message of all, I've been thinking about this a lot. One of my biggest messages with the Fairplay Harp School, and I think it's twofold. Number one, my passion for the 3 strands approach. Okay, so I've already mentioned that I did my degree in music, and I was able to read music, my masters and everything, and perform, but I came out not being able to improvise, and I came out not being able to play without music. I couldn't go and just sit in a group and play and jam. I couldn't do that. I was completely paralyzed if I was in that situation. Give me a big book with full of notes, fine. Put me without music, and I didn't have that skill. And it was a big block. And so I have this big passion for the 3 strands approach of teaching, which is to right from the very beginning and all the way through to be looking at music inside, outside, upside down, with this idea of looking at reading, playing by ear, and improvising, all bound up in thinking about our technique. So that's my biggest message of all. So even if you already play the harp, lots of students come in to take Start Harp, even 1, but quite often they're coming in at level 2 or level 3 in order to fine tune one of those 3 strands that perhaps isn't your superpower. Everyone has a superpower, you know, they'll have one of those, even if you don't realize it, one of those 3 strands will be your strength, maybe all of them if you're really lucky, but sometimes we need to nurture some of the others. So that's one of the big, you know, round the whole harp school messages, I suppose. And the second one that I find myself saying again and again, because it's quite a big you know, a concept, I guess, overall, is that my goal really is that I feel that we should all we're all looking to play beautiful music and be comfortable while we're doing it. Now, beautiful music to you might be playing rock on your harp. That might be what you can. That might be what you consider as beautiful. I like playing rock on the harp as well as classical and Celtic and things. So whatever that means to you, you want to play beautiful music and you want to be comfortable while you're doing that. And so this is all wrapped up in, you know, how do we make beautiful music? How do we hold our hands? How do we move at the harp? How do we express the you know, the behind the scenes, the real music after we've got the notes? How do we hold ourselves? How do we breathe? How are you thinking in your mind? How are you looking after yourself when you're playing? So that idea that there is no one fits all approach. You know, I'm not going to say to you, you must do this. I'm going to work with you so that I can find out, you know, what works on your hand, what's good for you. How are you going to be able to play the harp in the most beautiful way for you, and the most comfortable, and be the most comfortable while you're doing it. So that's kind of the overall, you know, those themes run through all my sessions, I feel, and all my courses. At least that's my goal. And so let's now show you inside, and of course then you can ask questions at the end. So I've still got the screen share up actually, so that's okay. I'm going to stop it just for a moment and then I'll bring you into the school. So these 5 courses I'm going to show you about today. The level 1, Start Harp level 1, is the one where you can come in as a complete beginner, and that takes everything from scratch. Okay, it's completely from scratch. You can have no musical knowledge at all and still come in. If you already read or you already play the piano or something like that, then that's a bonus. You can ignore, you know, that bit and think, or look at it and go, woohoo, I can already do that, and that's a superpower that you can have. And then you can focus on the other aspects of the course. They're quite busy courses. They're quite full courses, so I promise that there's plenty for you to get on with, even if you already can do one of those parts of the course. Level 2 is kind of a repertoire builder. It's where I guess that we're sort of nurturing the foundation techniques that we've looked at or that you've already learned elsewhere. And then we have 10 pieces in 12 weeks, okay? And we go through different genres. So I always enjoy it when people come into the school and they sort of say, oh, I'm not sure I want to play that style of piece. And then they play it, and at the end of it, quite often people will come back and say, this has been an eye-opener for me, or I've really enjoyed working in different styles and genres. So, you know, we might, I'll show you inside in a minute, but I think it's as far-ranging as like a blues piece to a Scottish air, you know, so it's quite far-reaching. And then when we go into level 3, I mentioned earlier the fact that level 1 and 2 you can play on even a 12-string harp without levers. There are 2 options of music pieces, arrangements through the course. So if you've got a bigger harp, you can use more of your instrument, but it's accessible. Level 3 goes into using the levers and the pedals on your harp. So you do need to, at that point, have a harp that you can change the chromatics. You know, you can change levers. So what do? Just in case you are complete new to the harp. The levers allow one string, la, 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 to make more than one sound. On the lever harp, you can get 2 sounds on one string, and on a pedal harp, you can actually get 3. It just opens up our world to be able to work with other musicians more and to play a bigger variety of music for sure. So we go around the circle of fifths. I'll show you inside. We learn about the different keys. We learn about majors and minors. We learn about connecting pieces with cadences and with modulations. So there's a lot more in that from the point of view of the theory. We also, in level 3, expand technique. We do things like trills, thumb slides. So I'm going to show you inside those 3 courses now. They're all 12-week courses. So you can come, I would recommend, if possible, coming live when you take a course. So if you sign up for a course, try and attend the live sessions if you can, because there's an amazing community that comes out of Start Harp. It's the most beautiful thing, I think, about having created the school, is working with a group who are all going through the same challenges and the same, well, not the same, but always different challenges sometimes, of course, and different successes. And we get to sort of thrive together, and we get to commiserate together when things are challenging and work our way through. And it's very powerful seeing that you are not alone in your challenges, and that your successes, you find out sometimes, are a superpower for you. You didn't realize, something that you take for granted because you can just do it, you then realize that actually is challenging for other people. So you can think, phew, I can actually, I thought I was finding all of this really hard, but actually I can do this thing without thinking. So it's really very powerful to work together as a group like this. And of course, you get your one-to-one feedback through the homework. So if you come live, you can play live to me. If you can't come live, or if you just prefer, you can video yourself playing and send it in. Learning to video and send in your project can be, of course, a tech challenge to start with, but actually, again, students time and time again tell me that that's one of the most powerful things that they do, because you watch yourself back playing. You learn to be your own teacher in a way that we never do when we're just focused on our playing. If you then watch yourself back, it's very powerful in so many ways. Okay, here we are in Start Harp 1. All the courses begin with an introduction bit, so I try and make it as clear as possible, but we have begin course, welcome and orientation, course resources, and live sessions. And the live sessions is where you find both the how to get into the live sessions and how to then you can watch the replays as well. Okay. And then each week in your inbox, you get an email which tells you, week 1, here are your materials. And you can click on your class to get through that way, or there's a second way you can get through. But you can see for week 1, level 1, getting to know your harp. We're literally going in level 1 and finding out what all the parts of the harp are called, okay? So it really does take you from step 1. And then sitting at your harp. Remember I said about being comfortable while you were playing? Part of that is how are you sitting. I have met so many students who've come to me with shoulder pain, back pain, I don't know, ear pain, probably not. Shoulder pain and back pain, arm pain, those are the common ones. And we adjust the height of the stool and where someone is sitting, and suddenly these pains go. And I go through lap harps, pedal harps, and sitting at lever or Celtic harps in there. It's a pretty long video, that's why there's the time breakdown, so you can jump in where's relevant to you. Okay, and then we go literally from finding the notes on the harp. So you get each week in Start Harp, you get a new note. So we look at where the strings are, we look at how to hold our hands, and then it's time signatures from the beginning. Everything really foundation, okay, from Start Harp 1. But can you see improvisation and learning by ear are in there straight away? And one of my favourite things about all the courses, the practice video. When I took the first online harp course as a student through Deborah, the Henson Connor's Harp School, the thing that I loved the most was, instead of having to work out how to practice, she told me how to practice, okay? So she's sitting there going, right, now do this 6 times. And you're like, okay, I'm going to do whatever it is 6 times. And so the idea of the practice videos is that each week it takes the concepts, the warm-up, the concepts, the improvisation, the by ear, and it runs them and allows you to practice along in a short sort of succinct video, usually about 20 minutes. So once you've gone through all the teaching videos, maybe Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I hear lots of students actually going Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, then you can spend Friday, Saturday and Sunday going over the practice video once or twice a day. Would be amazing, depending on what time you've got available. Okay then, so I'm just going to whiz through the rest of this course to show you what else we do in 1. So we go through the first, we go through the treble clef and the bass clef. We do lots of surprising things, I suppose. You do La Bamba, believe it or not, quite soon into the course. We talk about lots of different theory, rests, and the American terms are in here actually. This is plain quavers and dotted minims, but I do use the American terminology as well. And we go into default fingering on octaves. We learn some basic damping, we learn some basic percussion, and the final project at the end of level one, you learn to play Pachelbel's Canon, and you also learn to play Branbury's March, which is a beautiful tune if you don't know it. At the end of level one, you can do this. So in 12 weeks, if you've never played the harp and you've never read music, you will be able to do that, or play the very famous Canon in D there. And it's always I actually find it extremely emotional still after all these years when students get to that point having never done anything before. So it's amazing. And if you already play, what it means is that I actually also encourage you to create your own arrangements straight away, right at this point in your playing, right after 12 weeks. So even if you have a lot of other skills, you'll be able to put them into those final projects as well. Okay, I'm hopping into level 2. So do you remember I mentioned the repertoire building course for this one? So this is going again over the concepts that the foundation concepts. I'm going to keep going about thumbs up, fingers down, elbows out, relaxation, how to hold yourself. But we're also going to be looking at different styles of music and taking ourselves just a little bit further all the way. It begins with a reminder on foundation technique, because I just want to make sure if you come in from elsewhere that you have, you've heard these concepts before. And actually at the very beginning, I believe, yes, I do. I give you the Are You Sitting Comfortably, Foundation Techniques Full Scale, Foundation Techniques Arpeggio, and Finding All the Notes in the Musical Stave, just to get that first sort of make sure that we're all up to speed and all together on this. Playing in swing time, we do a blues, we do improvisation, we have practice videos again, we have homework, we have, and there are PDFs each week, downloads of the music and all the information that you need that you can keep forever as well. Lots of different concepts. We do Welsh tune here. We are doing triplets there. We're doing pentatonic stuff there, which some of you may have worked on, 5-note scales. They're quite fun. We do some basic theory on major and minor scales. We're doing dominant sevenths, grace notes, improvising your introductions, the beginning of the pieces, and the codas, the ending of the pieces. We're talking about doing different inversion chords, which are really brilliant both for sight reading and for when you're writing your own music. We talk about modes very briefly as well, because we do the beautiful Scarborough Fair in week 9. And we do the Aeolian mode here as well. So this is because we're not using any chromatics. So in order to open up the sound world, I take you into modes. If you don't know what modes are, they're sound worlds. They're different sound worlds than the one we're most common to, I suppose, in very brief. Mixolydian mode then comes here, and the cheerful goodbye, which actually ties together everything. You put in your own introduction, your own coda, your own improvisation section, and you learn a piece hands together using lots of opposite directions, and it's in a sort of dotted rhythm. Ba-da-dum, ba-dum. Bum, ba-dum, da-dum. So it really it takes everything out of level 2, all the goodness, and puts it all into one piece so that you can show those skills at the end. And again, it's always amazing watching students get to the end of level 2 as well. Level 3. Do you remember I mentioned that on this one we're going to go into levers, we're going to go into pedals, we go into chromatics. So same sort of setup at the beginning with everything, the introductions there. And then what do we do? Well, what are sharps and flats? Okay, we talk about what they are, how to write them out, how to find them on different harps. So I believe on the how to find them, there are, I give you a foundation into, oh yeah, okay, so I show you where they are, and then this picture's taking a while to download. I show you the levers, I show you the different positioning of the levers, I show you how you can put yourself into C major, which you'll probably know by the time you're taking level 3, pedal positions, and then I show you the notching of the pedals as well, and where they sit on the harp, and how to get sharps and flats, and then all of them at the bottom. Okay, and the mnemonics, I get you to write your own ways of remembering them. So even if you feel you're never going to play a lever harp, or you're never going to play a pedal harp, it's nice to be armed with the knowledge, isn't it? So that when you meet one, you sort of know at least what they're about. So even if you feel you're never going to go down that path, I feel it's interesting. I know I'm a bit of a geek, but I find all this interesting. Okay, so then we've got techniques. We've got we go on to thumb slides. We talk about working out any major key, any minor key. And I like the spotlight on for these. So here's the first spotlight, is avoiding aches and pains, probably to do with how we're sitting and how we're holding ourselves and how we're breathing. And we learn actually the week 1 and 2 pieces at Kinkham, because it moves from major into minor. It's actually turns out to be one of the favourite pieces, it seems, that I've written for people to play on the harp. And in level 2 you get Bryn Melyn, which is one of the other favourites. So there are some of my more loved solo tunes as well in these courses. The improvising and embellishing cadences we talk about. Spotlight on learning to teach yourself. Rolled chords, spread chords, one of the things we most, I most love are these, rolled chords on the harp. So we talk about how to make those, different. Sometimes they might be slow and lavish. Sometimes they might be fast and exciting, but learning how to get your fingers to fire in the way that you want to. The circle of fifths, I love the circle of fifths. It's another greatly geeky thing, but it's so useful for working out keys. It shows you majors, minors. If that looks like a complete minefield, I remember when I first put it out, actually, on the beta run of the course, somebody wrote underneath, "Oh my goodness me, in 20 minutes I finally, after all these years, understood the circle of fifths." And I was like, yes. So that's what we do there. And what else we do? We do joining pieces. You can see it's quite a lot. Okay, it's quite a lot. Yes, it is. But you get access to these courses for 12 months minimum afterwards as well. So once you've bought the course, you do your live 12 weeks, you ask questions. You then belong to the community, the Start Harp community. You have the Facebook page if you like Facebook. That community, you're in forever. Once a Start Harpist, always a Start Harpist. And so you can carry on asking questions there, and you can revisit the courses, okay, again and again. There are flashcards in, I think, all my courses. I love flashcards. We're going into harmonics here as well, enharmonic notes. So enharmonic notes are when you get two different notes to sound the same on your harp, and it can be used for fun effects as well. So we revisit pentatonic at that point. Using finger fourth slides, using thumb slides, I've already mentioned. Damping as well is an interesting concept, because there's obviously the standard damp we learn at the very beginning, but there are lots of other damps, and so we do a beautiful piece with a ground bass, a bass line that repeats, where I show you some very fancy damping. You don't have to do it, but again, we can store it all in our library of ideas in our brains for when we are ready, or when we do want to use them. Trills we talk about. Yes, we're not a flautist. I know they're never going to quite sound like we're on the flute, but we can still work at them to make them as beautiful as we can. We do double trills and single trills there. And what's it all about? We go into, I think that's where we do mid-piece accidentals. Yes, it is. And the two scale arpeggios and scales, two octaves. If you've already done that, great, but we just go over them again. And then finally, I love this final project as well. This one, we go around all the pieces. So we do, for each of the keys we visit, we do from E flat through to E on the circle of fifths, and I do then take you around the full circle for pedal harpists. But we have a piece in those keys that on the circle. If you don't know what I'm talking about, doesn't matter. Okay, we do lots of pieces with different lever and pedal settings. And at the very end, I invite you all to learn 8 bars of each of the pieces, and so that I can create, or so that you create, a group project. You do your piece, and then you do a modulation to join it, and then the next student comes in and plays their piece, and a modulation, the next student a modulation, and so we travel around the circle of fifths. So, and we also go around the circle of fifths with scales, which is a brilliant exercise for just getting familiar with your levers and pedals. We go around the circle with the pieces, and then, as I say, we have there's an all pieces play along, so you can then have this piece of music where you can play for like 20 minutes, or probably longer on your own as well, if you played them all and join them, a non-stop piece, a mashup of all these different styles as well. And then, as I say, we get the group project, review the group project. So that's that. Fantastic. Now, I wanted to do all this in half an hour. I think I've got about 4 minutes left to show you the other courses this term. So the 3 I've just shown you are Start Harp. Now, I always run Start Harp live sessions on a Sunday night at 8 p.m. my time, which is at the moment GMT +1, British Summer Time. If I get lots of people from the other side of the globe, I will possibly do one in the morning time slot on a Monday as well, or if we get lots of students, occasionally I do that too. So keep in touch with me. You can email me, say, Shelley, I'm in New Zealand, that's a rubbish time, I need it to be at a different time, and I will see what I can do. Okay, no promises, but I will see what I can do. With the next courses, with Pop and Modes, they are on Wednesday evenings, 8 p.m. GMT +1 and BST, British Summer Time, my time at the moment. So they take place on a Wednesday. Remember, you can watch replays and you can send in video submissions, and actually at any point in the courses, one of the least utilised parts of my courses is this, spotlight coaching. You can at any point in any of the courses send me a video with your question. Are you really stuck with something, or do you have questions that are almost impossible to write down but easy to show with your harp? You can send that to me at any point. I'm always stunned at how little this is used, because this is like access to one-to-one help whenever. Anyway, so there's that. So if you can't come live, and you don't need to think, oh well, I better not do the course, because there are other ways we can connect. We can connect on email, we can connect via Facebook, we can connect through that video coaching that way, the spotlight coaching, and you can send in your questions and your pieces you're playing in advance. So The other 2 courses I'm showing you now are 6-week courses. Pop with Pizazz. This was one of the lockdown courses, and I had already, well, Flourishing Harpist was the first one, but that was already planned. But Pop just came about really through requests, and it grew and it grew and it grew. It's a 6-week course that probably should be a 20-week course. It's all in there, guys. Okay, so you have 6 weeks where you're doing overviews of these topics. But think of this as a library of ideas of concepts and ideas that you can use both when working with pop music forevermore, but also when you're improvising and writing or writing music for yourself in any genre. A lot of these are completely, go across genres. Okay, so I could have really called this, a writing your own music course in a way, but we've gone through it on the pop angle. So what happens is that you get 6 weeks. I have written 6 fake pop songs. Actually, it's five actually, and then one of my own that ghost other songs. So they sound like songs that are famous. We learn sort of techniques that help you with that famous song and with other songs, in similar styles. But in order to not breach copyright, they are my own songs. Okay, so for instance, She's Chasing Stars is a bit like Chasing Cars. The Leopard's Leaps in Sight is the line like the lion sleeps tonight. Front Passenger is Shotgun. Sweet Nothing is my own pop song talking about the breaking down of things. Cheerful is a take on Happy. And what's the final one here? I can't actually see the tune. Stop Doubting. Oh, I can't even remember what that is. Is the pretend version of, actually. I've forgotten. Oh, I have actually forgotten. Oh, it's really great. It's a really great song. I can't remember what it's called though. Don't Stop Believing. Stop Doubting. That's it. Don't Stop Believing. Okay, so those are the fake songs. And so what else do we do? Well, I take you through the foundations, but up to really what I use all the way through on these, on all the concepts of ways that I use to play pop. So this idea of play it with pizzazz is to kind of give your pop some energy, some trying to maybe not just be harpist-like when you're playing it, but also thinking, how can you emulate that pop song? How can you kind of sound a bit like the bass player, a bit like the drummer, a bit like the singer, a bit like, how are we going to make it have colour and energy, or beauty and love, whatever you're after, through our harps, rather than maybe we can make it sound floaty and beautiful. Of course we can, and that's beautiful, and I do that too, but this is just trying to show you some pizzazz you can add in as well as an extra dimension. So foundation ideas on that. We talk about the breakdown of melody, harmony and bass. We talk about foundation chords because I want to leave no man or woman behind. We go on further from that, but we start with the basics. We have go-to patterns each week where I show you some of my favourite things that I use. The first one is a rhythm 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and which is used to underline so many pop songs. I had no idea I used it so much until I created this course, and it's because most pop songs, somewhere underneath them, they might not be really visible, but they're mostly using that rhythm. That's almost, I think, what makes us think, certainly in the West, oh, that's a pop, that's pop. Looping, we talk about looping for improvisation, whether that be with a loop pedal and electrics or whether that's just you, because often pop songs have chord loops. They pretty much all have chord loops of some sort. Some are only 4, some are 8, some are more changeable, but they loop. Even if it's just chorus and verse looping, there are loops going on in your pop songs. So we talk about that. With improvisation, you notice that 3-strand approach coming through. We do melody, and we talk about like what different aspects of pop melody, and I start with syncopation. We talk about accenting later on and things. Arranging for the music, part 1. So how are you going to start arranging? So I show you into different types of scores you might have to use, because not all pop songs are written down for harp. That's why one of the reasons for this course coming into being. So we talk about what's available, and then how on earth do you decipher that to make it work on the instrument, on your instrument, on the harp. Arranging from a recording, we talk about listening from ear, and we go, how to even work out the key it's in, so how would you do that? So I start from that foundation of, being able to hear a recording and work out the key, and then we build up from there. And then with the playing with electrics, we do basic terminology to start with. So literally, what is an amp? What is a cable? What do you mean by female and male cables? What's a microphone? I know that loads of you are thinking, well, I know all this. What's a transducer? What's a preamp? What's an XLR? I remember being completely blinded by, someone saying, do you need an XLR cable? And me going, this is what I've got. So I'm trying to enable you to have some of the, you know, the lingo, the language, so that, you know, if you find yourself in a situation where you need to share that, you know what you're doing. And then at the very beginning, we have a kit party. The first session, I invite you to bring along any gear you've got. So some of you might already have loop pedals or any pedals or an amp. It's really fascinating for us to see what other people have. Some of you may have a beautiful harp, you and your beautiful harp, and that is your kit, and you can come along and share that. Okay. Week 2, we're going in further. We talk about rhythm again. We go into part 2 of the sheet music arranging. I think I show you again I show you written down different examples, all of one piece, and giving you, you know, how would you work from the lyrics and chords? How would you work if it was voice and piano? How would you work if it was an SATB score? How would you work if it was a piano score? This is all arrangements I made of the Leopard Leaps and Sight, in these different in these different written out ways, so that we can then explore how to take from that what you need as a harpist, whatever you have thrown at you. Where else are we going? I'm now looking at the time going, come on, Shelley. Right, we do recognising minor chords. Yeah, we start with recognising major, then recognising minor by ear if you're not already there on that. If you are, great, superpower. Setting up your pedals, the daisy chain. What about using your harp with electrics? And I share with you some of my favourite tips. There's a time lapse I promised to share with everybody in the course, my pedal board. So eventually I got round to it, and I think this is a really
I promised I would show
fast
you my
time
pedal.
lapse. Is it going to come in? I think I just moved through.
To put in some wires now. I didn't have everything I wanted
So
today,
you can see that's just me showing the setup. Actually, mostly seeing my roots. But anyway, you do get to see how I put everything together there, and I give you a talk over. And you have to remember it was lockdown. I have bad roots in a lot of the lockdown videos. Okay, and the power of emphasis. I love this workshop so much. This is just talking about, you know, the different ways we can make expression on the harp, to really sing through our harp, to really make the melodies speak. And I think that's so often the missing piece. I think it is the missing piece often. We learn notes, we learn technique, we learn how to play, but then these tiny nuances I've never really tried to put into words so much even until this course, and it's fascinating. I think I hope I find it fascinating. Again, I'm a geek though. Strummed chords we talk about. We do recognising intervals. So if you haven't yet tuned in your ear to hear intervals, we work on identifying these different intervals that you hear in music. You know, by an interval I mean, you know, if we know that's a perfect fourth, then we can find a perfect fourth when we're trying to work by ear. So we work on that. It's a big concept if it's new to you. We do looper foundations. We do looping on an app or a smartphone, so you can do looping just if you've got a smartphone, and you have it by your harp, and you don't actually have to go out and buy all the gear. It's just a way in. It's not. I personally think it's not ideal, but it can be. You can then buy gadgets to make it ideal, like foot pedals and things. So if you like your looper app, then you can go further with that. And we talk about ghost notes, grace notes. We talk about accenting to spice up things up. We talk about phantom power, not brilliantly. I seem to remember that I make a bit of a joke of the phantom power thing, but we do talk about phantom power. What's that? We talk about layering loops. We talk about percussive effects in the loops. We talk about escaping loops, you know, how to finish loops. So it's all very well being able to build a loop, but then how do you get out of it? You just turn it off. Then it's a bit weird. So we talk about that even. Troubleshooting for kit, opposite key trick, one of my favourites. There are the flashcards. I would love to show you these as well. The flashcards, let's do these single bars. The flashcards, at the end of the course you get them, and the idea with this is that they enable you to be able to, where you can use them to write your own pop. You can use them to help you arrange your own pop. You can use them to write any music really, I suppose. So there are cards for each of I haven't done the B diminished chord. Okay, these are C major chord sets, so you get C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor. So these are all in, you can use these for natural minor or C major. I know this is going a bit far for some of you on theory, but for those of you who are ready for this, here it is. And you can mix them up on your music stand. You make them up, you hole punch them together, and then you can use them to, you can say, right, I'm going to try a C chord with this rhythm, and then I'm going to open up my D set. Sorry, there's a lot here. I did explain these in the video. And I'm going to then try going maybe to my D chord with this rhythm. And then I'm going to try, and so you can mix and match them. And it turns out very quickly you can get 4 of them up and make a piece. It really works. Stab chords, percussion chords, there's all sorts going on there. Okay, and then at the very end of the pop course, we have a You Can Do It workshop where you come along and you can do it. You either come and you write a song, or you come and you come and create your own loop. You come and arrange your own pop song, and there's a fourth thing that we do as well. And basically, I help coach you with that while we're live. But also, we share as well in groups as well. So that's a really fun final week as well. Last but not least, because I do want to make sure there's time for questions, we have the Modes course. So the Modes course is another 6-week course, again taking place on Wednesday nights this term, 8 p.m. GMT, British +1, summertime here in the UK. And the Modes course, again, was a course that was requested. So this one had been waiting to come for about 3 years, I think. But this is, because in START HARP 2, you saw I talk about Mixolydian, Aeolian, and one of the other modes, Dorian. The students who'd taken that said, but we want to know all 7 modes. There are 7 modes. No, I can't. There's actually a webinar. If you want to know more about this, I did a 1-hour webinar, which is on my YouTube channel. You can go and find that for free and hear about what is a mode if you don't know. So you can do that. If you already know, I'm just going to say there are different soundscapes that we have available. You know, if we're in C major on my harp, well, which I'm not, lovely. Then we, if we play C to C, if we've got C major pedal or levers, we have a scale there. It's a sound that we're really used to. If I played starting on a different note, it might sound a little bit different to your ear. Well, that was actually Dorian mode, and the thing that sounds different is this note here. But you can get to a place, if you play around with them, what I do is I show you what are the 7 different modes that you can find. If you start in a major key, you can explore 7 different modes from that key as a kind of the foundation. And we explore it through improvising, we explore it through warm-ups, we explore it through learning a piece. I've written 7 pieces in each of the modes, new pieces for the course. And we learn about the historical context of modes. Where did they come from? Why? Where are they used? Because they are used in pop, they're used in traditional, they're used in film, they're used in classical in the broader sense, they're used in every genre of music. It's just, and once your ear gets tuned into them, you start to think, rather than something just being a chromatic, a sharp or flat in your music, you start to think, oh, actually that's a modal inflection or a modal moment, or that's in a mode. So it helps tune our ears in for that. We experiment with them, which chords can work best. I show you some places where you can find like traditional tunes that are listed with their modes. That's kind of useful if you wanted to play in particular modes. We talk about we talk about each of the different modes, and we go right through all of them, and we finish off with looking at the 7 and talking about, we have a review sheet so that you can go in and write down what the mode makes you feel like, how you find it, and just what's worked for you in the course, really. But my favourite thing about this course, I think the favourite thing for everyone in this course is the modes wheel, which is this. So the modes wheel is my geeky gadget for helping you find out any mode in any key. So I know I just mentioned C major, but actually we have 12 different keys that we can go into, not on the lever harp, but anyway, on the circle of fifths. Let me show you the circle of fifths here. And what this circle shows you is you put the 2 discs together and you spin the disc, and once you've cut this bit out, you get a peep through to the back one, which gives you one of the scales, one of the keys, sorry, and then it gives you the starting note for the different modes, because that lines up to here, to Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Locrian, however you want to say that. So that has been a brilliant gadget, and we learn how to use that, which means you can use that to help you work out what mode your pieces are in. You can use it to find modes, and it's just one of those really things that you can just keep on your music stand or in your gig bag, I hope, forever, as a little useful tool. Fantastic. So that's the other 6-week course taking place in summer 2022. There are finally some immersions taking place, which if you just want to come and pop in and do a little bit of stuff with me this term, we've just had Move That Tune. There are 3 or 4 more before the autumn term begins. So on the 8th of May, we have Telling Stories of the Harp for young children. So I'm just showing you some of my favourite tricks for doing that. And of course, these ideas help with any composing or arranging you might do at your harp. But I'm going to be going at it from the angle of telling stories. We do Rhythms Made Easy, so if you find rhythms still sometimes a bit elusive, then I'm going to be showing you some of my favourite rhythm words, and we will talk about some sort of tricks for getting your hands and your brain to be at one with some of these more tricky ones. We don't go into polyrhythms in this one. I've done a polyrhythms course. It was intense. If you want to learn about polyrhythms, then I can send you a link for that immersion, but I'm not doing that again for a while. Okay, 10th of July, we're doing melody writing, where I'm just going to give you some 10 favourite favorite tricks. I am not saying I am a a great composer in any way, but I do write melodies for teaching with, and so I'm just going to show you some of my favorite ones, which will be some get you started ideas, I hope, for your own work. And in August we're doing Know Your Shapes. This is one of my, I think it's my current obsession, probably has been for about 2 years now. Is no, it's been for a lot longer than that. This started a long time ago, actually. I did a workshop years ago about it. But knowing your shapes, if we learn the muscle memory for certain shapes, default fingering on certain shapes, it just empowers us for improvising, for sight reading, for confidence, to minimize buzzing, to gain certainty on our instrument, and it's just amazing. And memorizing. So I'm going to give you, there's going to be some flashcards for this one. Yes, there is. Okay, and then we're into the autumn term, and I'll tell you about that in the next open house. So that's what we've got going on. And last but not least, you can join Dynamic Harps, the virtual harp ensemble. If you go to my website and you go to join the community, you can just straight away come in Dynamic Harps virtual ensemble. Pretty sure I'm about to take you to a page I've not updated. Yes, I am. I will sort that after the webinar. But you can come and join this, and we meet once a month. We've gone back to once a month meet. We had a 10-week course at the beginning in the winter, but now we're into the summer. We're going to be going back to meeting once a month. You can just come along for an hour and a half once a month, meet some friends from around the globe, play together, and it's always wonderful to see you there. And it's also a chance you can ask me questions in the break or afterwards about anything, so it's a good way to catch me as well. Okay, brilliant, fantastic. So I have finished the overview. I have a few people here who might like to ask questions, and if you have any questions, now's your moment. If you don't want to ask questions, I'm going to ask you questions instead, so you might like to fill the time with your own questions. So I'm just going to give everyone a moment. You can write them in if you've got questions, or you can just unmute and pop on, and I will give you a moment, and if there aren't any questions, I'm going to ask you some. Remember, you owe it to anybody watching the replay to ask questions. So Lorraine's unmuted. Hi, Lorraine. Are you all right to come on screen?
Sorry?
Are you okay to come on screen? Shall I add you?
Yes, okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Hi, Lorraine. How are you doing?
Hi.
Nice to see you.
Right, I've got a couple of questions, Shelley. The first question is the Pop with Pizazz course.
Yes.
I noticed that's autumn. Is that starting later on in the year, or is it?
It's starting on the 2nd of May. If I've put that somewhere with autumn, then let me bring it up for you. Then it may be that I change the schedule at some point. But so the good news is, or the bad news, depending on when you want to take it, we're starting that basically next week. So
right. Okay.
I will try and seek out where the misinformation has come from. But yeah, so my intention is to only run this live once this year, Lorraine. So it'll come through again live next year. But of course, if you want to buy the course, you can then access it and come to the next live session whenever the next live session comes up. So you have that opportunity as well. So you can work on it in your own time, and then come to, if you can't come live now, I'm very happy to put you in and then put you into the live course next year, but it will be till next year before that comes up again.
Okay, right. Is you've just done the perform course?
Yes.
Was that tagged on to the Pop with Pizazz course?
No, that one I'm hoping, that one I haven't scheduled again for this year, but it does seem that people would quite like to do it again. So I'm hoping to run that in September, in the autumn term, but I haven't actually scheduled it in yet. So there was two, wasn't there? There was prepare, study, perform, and then there was play your harp out. Those were the two that kind of go together, but you can take both independently as well. And I'm hoping, what I'm actually hoping to do, if anybody's thinking, well, how's she going to fit that in on Sundays and Wednesdays? What it realises is that flourishing harpists, because it's a secret level 4, flourishing harpists can actually go in and be with Start Harp and can be run with the Sunday nights and the Monday mornings. So that then frees up the Wednesdays, so I can hopefully schedule, because I know that particularly the performing course and the playing to each other was really exciting, and I'd love to be able to do that again this year. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Right. That's something to think about.
Yeah.
Because I'm not able to actually. Sorry, I've got a bit of a sore throat today.
Oh, bless you, Lorraine.
Sorry.
Okay, no, don't worry at all. He's cheeky.
It's not COVID. I've been doing.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. It's the first thing we all say now, isn't it, when we get a cough? If it's not, so we've done our test and we're like, it's not COVID.
Um,
Okay.
oh, I'm going to have a good cough now. So can I come back to
Of
you,
course you
Shelley?
can, Lorraine, and you can even type it in if it's better. Okay. Okay,
I'll
don't
come
worry at
back
all.
to you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
don't worry. Okay, I think I've just stopped your video by accident, but I will just remove the pin and mute poor Lorraine so she can cough in private. Okay, fantastic. Demetra, is there anything you'd like to ask me?
Yes, I was actually interested in the differences between the Flourishing Harpist and Start Harp 2 and 3 or something.
Ah,
So is
okay.
that a next level, or because I was thinking about doing that in September, and yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah, so it's not scheduled for this term. It's scheduled, as you say, for September. And after Start Harp was created, Kate who's here live knows this to be true. I was badgered for a 4th level for years, and I said no, I'm not doing any more courses. And then because I had children and I was very busy with my 2 young children, and then I had promised pre pandemic that in April 2022 I was going to make Flourishing Harpist, and Flourishing Harpist was twofold things. It was number one, the main well, there were 2 main reasons for it. They're completely separate. I had been asking all adult harp learners for years, what's your biggest frustration with your study? What is it? What do you find you're hitting brick walls with? What's your biggest challenge? What do you really wish you could do that you can't? And I've been storing these all up. And so Flourishing Harpist is 12. It's 12. Normally in the other courses it's 10 weeks of actual lessons with a review and a catch up. But Flourishing Harpist just was so big. It's actually 12 modules of those concepts of things that adult learners find that we can often hit a brick wall with, and a lot of the things that I've hit brick wall with over the years as well. But coupled with that, it's the secret level 4 for Start Harp 1, 2, and 3, because it actually, quite often, I take you right down to the beginning of concepts in Flourishing Harpist, because people came in that had never worked with me before, but I also take it that step further. And the pieces, again, Kate, I believe I've got 2 levels of pieces most of the way through in that, or yeah, I have. Okay, so you can take it in an easier way, because when I first did it, I had students who were quite fledgling through to professionals. I've had quite a number of teachers even take Flourishing Harpist, because conceptually it takes us to quite different places. I'm very happy to show you in there. Actually, if you'd like me to, do you want me to just quickly show you the list? Would that be of interest?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And Demetra, I'm very happy because I've done this for other people. I've got a list going of people who that's not the right screen share, sorry, have gone into the course already to look at it, and then they'll take the live course. So if you feel that you would like to look at it in advance, I can do that as well. So I'm just trying to find the right screen share. There you are. Right, I've gone out of screen share mode, haven't I? Okay, so let's find you into. You're going to see the back end of my courses now, but it doesn't matter. It just looks a bit boring from the back. It's loading. Come on. Right, okay. Flourishing Harpist. It's hiding down here somewhere. Where is it hiding? Oh, it is. Okay. Okay, so it's a slightly different setup. I've called them masterclasses rather than homework, because of the way that I taught it and the concepts that come out. So we do technically possible. So this is technique reminders, extension, and working on melodic contouring, I called it. So this is a silly word in a way, but this is, I'm talking about playing with phrasing, but on a micro level. So do you remember in the pop course I was mentioning, different turns and different angles and how much skin we use and all that kind of stuff changes how we can express the melody and make it sound like singing. So I went to the word melodic contouring to kind of be just thinking of it slightly differently on the harp. But yeah, that's basically talking about phrasing. And then know your shapes, placings. This is where we get the 12 shapes somewhere here. Find your shapes. So I really oh, that's not the right one. Yes, it is. No, it's not. Let me find. I think you may have seen this somewhere anyway. Find your shapes. Is it this one? No. Okay. There's a page where I go through the 12 different shapes that I believe are kind of the underpin everything that we're doing all the time. Because once you really know those on muscle memory and can recognize them visually, whether they're going up or down or straight, then everything else is just a slight variation of those 12 things. And words, rhythm made easy. You can do it. So this is working out and the art of breaking it down. Of course, you've kind of done this in the prepare, study, perform, and play your harp out as well. But little tricky excerpts, ideas, working out how you're going to be able to play those. Playing with other musicians. So this is where we talk about working in ensembles, working in duet, working with a conductor. you know, how you might run a rehearsal as well. So I get everyone in the masterclass, you know, you count in the other musicians and things like that. So we practice all that. It sounds awful. I promise it's not. It might feel awful at the time, but everybody does it and manages it. And yes, I think that's an interesting week as well. And then as simple as 1, 2, 3. This week nearly broke me writing it. This is where we talk about fingering and working out your own fingering, and so we go through, you know, how you would do runs and notes, how you do patterns, what you would do at the bottom of the run and notes, what about repeated notes, fingering into and out of block chords. And then I gave you flash chord cards for Jigsaw, which sort of allows you to work out, and I'm not going to show on there, work out fingering on them, and then actually if you then mix them up and put different flashcards on your music stand, it makes you think at sight how you would finger that particular set of cards as well. So it's sort of helping us to think on our feet with that. Think theory in action. Oh yeah, then I give you the pieces that we'd already learnt, because we do a piece every week in Flourishing Harpers as well. Hidden Treasures, Canoe for One, Still Share the Sun, Dearly Beloved, Fallen Sky. The fingering, I give you my own fingering just written out in pencil, to show you how I might have approached doing that, so that you can then hopefully see that your ideas were similar or different. Doesn't matter. What I actually say in the fingering week is that you choose and you commit, and that's what's important. There are many roads that lead to Rome. Every harpist will have a different idea. What's important is you choose and you commit, so you can build your muscle memory, and you know, then you're safer every time. Metronome Magic, which you've probably seen in one of the other courses. Slow means fast, how to improve agility and speed, and everybody seems to love Couch to 5K. Which is one where it's got loads of, you know, runs, arpeggios, Alberti bass, different inversion patterns going up and down. In fact, you might recognize this has got a lot of the ideas on that left hand pinch points, power up your left hand course sheet that you've seen recently as well. Sound and silence, talking about lots of different types of damping. You wouldn't believe I could write a whole week on sound and silence with you, but I did. And then It Takes Two to Tango, working on getting left and right to play nicely together, as in behave well together, because this is one of the biggest frustrations of all, I think, for many students. And the piece actually has a sort of a vaguely tricky, I think, ostinato bass line, so that we're having to really get this independent left hand going against the right. It doesn't look too bad, but it's surprisingly tricky. It's for the brain to have to really kind of go, oh, okay. What on the harp is that? We do 24 extended techniques, and this was my lockdown insanity moment, because actually I give you this to play from. That's the music you get that week. You get 3 like that, and it's extended techniques and working on using scores, these fascinating graphic scores, which are something that you might meet somewhere else one day. And even if you don't, when you see somebody on stage performing a graphic score, it's always fascinating to kind of in your head have an idea of what they might be working with, I always think. And then it's 20 plenty. At the end of it, we talk about, you know, some practice ideas and ways that you can work. And the final piece is Flourish Forever, which I can't actually quite remember. Oh, it's a theme and variations, so it kind of goes through some of the concepts we've done with the block chords, taking it into arpeggios, shapes really, a big one, and bass line and some damping. So it's again trying to bring together a lot of what we do in the course. So that's it. So in your answer to your question, which you probably thought I was only going to take 1 second for, apologies, what is it? Is it in relation to Start Harp 1, 2 and 3? It's kind of a secret level 4, but it's kind of embraces everything right from beginning through to professional as well on these particular concepts. That was the goal. And so I believe it works multi-level. Okay. More so than the other courses, in fact, but it doesn't go into the same detail on things in the way that 2 and 3 do, in the way that I've just described them. So there we are.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Demetria.
Thank you.
Okay, brilliant. So fantastic. Lorraine, do you want to come back on again? And Kate, is there anything you want to ask? Lorraine's going to come back on again. Fantastic. I think we're feeling a bit better now.
Thanks, Shelley. Thank you.
It's okay. Don't worry at all.
The other thing I wanted to ask you was if you have had any more thoughts about the course that Ethna and I were talking about.
The chords. Yes, I have, because it's been badgering my brain now. You've seeded the thought. So this is a course that doesn't exist yet, everybody, at all, and it may never exist. I have no promises. But we were. I often get asked to talk about chords, and I haven't really gone anywhere into great depth on chords because mostly because I feel Deborah Henson-Conant has an incredible hands-on harmony course. I just think, why would I do something when Deborah's done this? So first of all, Lorraine, go and watch Deborah's if you haven't already, because it's brilliant. But we talked about something slightly different, which I could get behind, which is, well, I don't know, my head got into this idea of, you know, with modes, we've explored, you know, the different lineup of tones and semitones and half step, whole steps that make up those 7 different scales when you look at them on each note. And of course the circle of fifths, sorry for those of you, this is like going to go woof for a while, but it doesn't matter, okay? It doesn't matter whether you know it or not. I'll get there in a second. You have, you know, your 24 scales and different keys that you can get, and you've got the 12 different starting notes that you can have, haven't you? And I wonder whether there's a 12-week course where we could explore, starting on each note, the scales we could get from it, the chords we can get from it, and work at it that way, because I often find that I don't know, I feel all my life I've reinvented the wheel on everything. Because you know, it's like, well, of course you can already do that, everyone can already do that, but somehow my brain likes to settle into things in its own sort of slow way. And I just actually think that that would be fascinating to, you know, what can we do if we start on a C? You know, what chords can we get, what scales can we get, what can we do if we start on a C sharp, what chords can we get, what scales can we get, what can we do on a D? It might, and we could make it interesting and fun, because we could improvise in those keys, we could improvise with those chords, we could have a new piece on each of the half steps of the music. So I am behind it. It would be spring 2023 that it would come, Lorraine. So that's behind the scenes. My brain is working on it, but yeah, it would be 2023 January.
Right. So that would be encompassing, because I'm particularly interested in jazz.
Yep.
I know nothing about it, but
Okay.
I love to listen to it, and so I'm thinking I'd love to learn a bit more about the jazz chords.
Amazing. Okay.
Now, I can remember when I first started to play harp, I said to Helen Barley, I'd love to play jazz, and
Yes.
she looked at me horrified.
Oh,
because she
Helen,
said,
honestly, I love Helen to pieces. She's a really good friend of mine. I shall have words.
no, it was purely
I'm
for
joking,
the
of
fact
course I
that
won't.
it was purely for the fact that Lorraine, she said, they are so hard
Yeah.
to play.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I thought, well, distant future stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
But it is something I am interested in.
Okay. So the things that spring to mind that I have currently on offer that would be useful is level 3 of Start Harp, where we do all the keys, because I think it really, I mean, I would go as far as to say that I really think that the knowledge of each key and the settings of the pedals and the levers of each key is brilliant. If you have that knowledge, then you can start to look at your harp and think, oh, okay, so I want, I don't know, I need to think of a chord that's got something a little bit more in it. Okay, it's just A major. And if I then look at the harp and I think, well, okay, I straight away need a C sharp there, because to get an A major chord, I've got the A there already, I need a C sharp. But you've got to have the knowledge of what each key has in it to be able to start to think chords like that quickly. The memorizing of the hand shapes of the chords, of the inversions, the root, the first, the second, the sevenths on their root, first, second, third, and then being able to couple those shapes with the key knowledge, again, is fantastic way. Knowing how to do a 2-5-1, sorry, yeah, a 2-5-7-1 cadence is another big foundation, and that's why I taught you. I mean, I give those ideas to you in Start Harp level 3, don't I, Kate? Where I get you to modulate and bring pieces together, because loads of jazz tunes, half of them are made up of sometimes even all of them, of 2-5-1 cadences. They look like they exist in one key, Lorraine, the jazz tunes. They got their key signature there, but actually what they're doing is you know, micro shifting, like maybe even every half bar between different key centers. So like we've talked about, you know, I talked about tonal centers of the modes. It's like a jazz tune might shift from, these are going to be random non-connected keys I'm going to blurt now, but it might like go G minor, A major, C, F sharp minor, whatever, and it's kind of the tonal center shift, which is why it sounds, to start with, if your ear isn't used to jazz, people often say I don't like jazz, it's because it's not doing what your ear is expecting. But we learn to, you know, if you listen to it and get used to it, then it's actually this sort of complex, evolved, exciting universe where things are sort of interlinking in a different way than other styles do. So yeah, so I would, if I was going to teach you jazz, which, you know, jazz is not my superpower. I've studied it with Deborah a bit. I've studied it with Park Stickney and just in classes. It's not my superpower. I have this genreless feeling to myself where I feel that I, you know, play lots of different genres, and I love to understand how jazz is like classical. It's just the pot stirred differently. How blues is like, you know, that's what fascinates me, is how everything's actually so similar. So I have a working knowledge rather than being a jazz harpist for sure. But yeah, I would want you to know your keys really inside out. I would want you to know your shapes inside out, and then I do, you know, I think that the 12-week course I'm thinking of, I'm definitely not going to promote it as I'm teaching a jazz course, because for the reasons I've just said. But it will be, what I want to do with it is I want to explore how jazz chords, you know, like the Neapolitan sixth that comes up in classical music is actually just one of the common jazz chords as well. So there are these different terminologies, you know, that I want to sort of be able to share, you know, this is called this in this genre, this in this genre, this in this genre, so that if you already have lots of classical knowledge, you can see how it interlinks with with other styles. That's my goal. I don't know whether I can achieve it, but that's why my brain's thinking about this a lot at the moment. So it won't be a jazz course. But Deborah Henson-Connor's got this wonderful hands-on harmony. Demetra may have taken it and know about the course. I was there with her when she taught it live once as a whole day course, and it's, you know, it's brilliant. She so it's a great foundation as well. And she also has a blues and jazz course. And Lorraine, you can play blues straight away. I'm sure you've already played some blues tunes, but you know, Start Harp level 2, week 2, we do a blues. You know, so you can, and blues is a subset of jazz. So you know, there are simple ways of doing these things. And if you take any jazz lead sheet and play the melody, as long as you can play in swing, you know, that thinking of that skipping rhythm, da dum ba dum ba dum. I can't help teaching even on a webinar, I'm sorry. Then when you go into just doing the bass notes of the letters above, you will already sound like you're playing jazz. Okay, so even if you just, where it says, you know, if it says F sharp flat 9 minor 7, whatever, you can still just play an F and then play the melody, and it will still sound like jazz if you're playing it in swing time. So there are ways of I should do a let's fake playing jazz immersion at some point, shouldn't I?
Yes.
Like the let's fake improvising, let's fake blah blah. Because you know, there are you know, Helen's absolutely right. It is a huge world for our brains, and it's a brilliant world, but we can cheat our way in as well, for sure.
Right. Will you be doing a Start Harp 3 in the autumn?
Yes, so Start Harps, of course, is always run in the spring, the summer, and the autumn, because I just want to be able to, if somebody comes in and starts the harp totally new for the first time, I want them to be able to, in a year, get to about grade 3, 4. It's an amazing transition when that happens. Kate, you've seen that happen time. In fact, Kate's done it. It's phenomenal, isn't it? Like, and I just, it's when students have done it, I mean, my mind blows. I'm like, wow, you have done this in a year. So yeah, I keep those. They will always run. My goal is that they will always run 3 times a year for that reason.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There we are. Brilliant. Thank you, Lorraine. Okay. I'm now over time, but I just wonder whether actually everybody who's here, it's we've got a what's the word? I can't think of the right word for being a good word. A lovely small group today this morning.
A select group, Shelley.
Group. Thank you. I'm looking for a dignified word there. I wonder if you might be willing to share the questions that came up a lot on Sunday with the bigger group. Were, you know, how long do you have to put in to be able to do any of these courses? I think that was the question that kept coming up again and again. So I wonder if those of you who've done my courses, how many hours a week have you put in on the courses to be able to, when you've worked on them? Feel free just to jump in.
Not enough.
Okay. Kate says not enough. Okay, well, okay, so you can always, certainly in my courses, I talk about them as libraries of ideas. You know, you can come back to them, you can revisit them. You're always going to feel like you can do more. You on an instrument, I think I always still feel like that as well. I never feel like I always feel like there's more I could and should do. Although I'm sure I should work on being calmer about that. But what I'm trying to say is, you know, with the spiral learning, you know, we revisit concepts. So if you don't do as much one week as you would have liked to have done, you know, you will revisit things again. So Kate, I'm going to ask you again, how much time do you put in, or when you first did the courses, you know, how much time did you put in to get yourself off the ground?
When I first did them, I watched all the videos initially on the first run through. And so it was however long that takes, and the practice video as well. The second time I did it, I concentrated more on the technique videos, things that, and the homework, what I'd need to do the homework.
Right.
So if you are a bit busy, that's a really good cheat way to get into it, is just concentrate on the things you'll need for submitting the homework.
So you get the live feedback.
Yeah, so you get live feedback and videoing your homework.
Yes.
I mean, I know we do it live now, but
sometimes
the absolutely incredible amount of extra learning you get from videoing yourself, because you'll play it and then red light nerves really is a thing, and it will go wrong, and you've played it through perfectly 6 times and you go, I'm going to video myself, and the moment you do that, everything goes out the window. And you watch it through and you go, but I look at what I've done, my thumb's down, my elbow's not up, oh my goodness me, I can't submit that. And so then you re-record, because you've already learned that, and you know, so you're teaching yourself, you're really helping.
Yeah. I mean, so actually, you're sort of saying that, like, almost saying, and it, you know, it's awful because you watch yourself back, but actually, it's a really positive thing, isn't it?
It's brilliant. It's so brilliant
to reflect. So if you do it in a sort of safe way, where you're being kind to yourself and going, okay, actually, wow, my thumb's down, I thought it was up, you know, then you can really make it so that you are empowering yourself to teach yourself, and that's another one of the, you know, the community side of Start Harp, the phenomenal sort of support is great, and that learning to really be able to reflect. And I think because you see hands up on, you know, you're seeing videos which you can pause and look at and things, then you look at your own hand as well, and it gives you, you know, time, it gives you a different way of reflecting than if you'd had a lesson and then walked away for 2 weeks and come back, because you can revisit the hand shapes and positions and everything.
Another thing is just to video anything that you're practicing, just so you can go back and think, actually, I know that I can do that a different way. And so if you video it and look back, you don't need to share it with anyone.
No,
and that then helps with playing live and videoing homework and things like that.
Yeah,
it's an amazing thing.
And you because Kate's actually a relative of mine, and she's taken my courses ever since the beginning, and actually sort of been you know, you've helped on the courses and everything actually over the years. Thank you. You have had the interesting experience of seeing yourself doing a video like 2 years ago, and then doing the same homework 2 years later, getting something different out of the experience that time, and seeing your progress. And it's been really interesting to watch you go through that process, because you kept on getting more and more every time you redid them, and yeah, it's been wonderful watching you thrive. Thank you, Kate. That's brilliant. Thank you. Okay, Lorraine, you've done some of my courses. How much time have you put in to when you've been working on them live?
Well, the first big course I did with you was the Flourishing Harpist.
Yes.
Which I still visit now, and I'm still working on Couch to 5K.
Brilliant.
Every day.
Great.
Every day.
It's really good for your fingers and brain. I love that.
Because it's an exercise. It's my exercise for me. So parts of it I keep coming back to. But at the time, I found I was putting a lot of time in, because I think I was trying to, and I realised this over the few weeks. In the beginning, I was trying to master everything.
Yeah.
And it's impossible.
Yeah, it's a library of ideas. Flourishing Harpist, more than any of my courses, is a library of ideas. Yeah.
Yeah, and I realised this quite quickly into the weeks, that I just couldn't master everything.
Live, no. And
could
that's
possibly
not
even
yeah.
So I was, in a way, I was glad that the next week there was another subject that I could kind of clear my mind.
Right, yes.
And start again.
Yes, it's not cumulative so much, is it? Most of my courses are cumulative, but Flourishing Harpist has these kind of independent modules, so you can kind of start the next one without necessarily having done, you know, if you miss a couple of weeks, you can look at them later in your own time.
Yes, and I found the subject matter of some of the weeks really refreshing, because it wasn't so much of hard technique, like the one where we did the soundscapes.
The weird pictures.
I found was quite fun.
Great, I'm so happy to hear that.
To explore, rather than real hard technique, if you know what I mean.
Yes, some of it's lighter than others. It's still hopefully informative, but it's not sort of do this, do that, do that. It's like, wow, look at this. This is let's explore this.
Yes. And so it did open up a different kind of world
Amazing.
to me. So yeah, I in my personality anyway, I have to stop myself trying to really cram.
Okay.
And I accepted your spiral learning.
Perfect.
and now I go back to things.
That's wonderful.
You know, 2 years old.
Perfect,
more.
Lorraine. Yeah.
So
It
yeah.
sounds like you're using the course in exactly the way I intended, and that's brilliant. But I think what you're really saying is to start with, you did lots and lots of hours, and then you're like, okay, I don't need to. I'm just going to do a few, a couple of hours or whatever, and did it differently. And we were also, I think you did the very first run when we were in deepest, darkest lockdown, so life was a bit different for a while anyway with time, wasn't it? So yeah.
Yes.
Fantastic, Lorraine. Thank you. And I'm so happy to hear you're still using all the materials. That's literally what I wanted to hear. You've made my day.
Oh, thank you. Oh yes,
thank you.
Because sometimes I think one of the days Shelley's going to take it off and I won't have it. And
yeah, well, you can always retake for £75 if that ever happens. But yeah, I have never closed a course, but I should. I mean, they're meant to be 12 months access, but yeah. Okay, thank you, Lorraine. And Demetra, finally, how much time have you spent on the courses that you've done with me?
I've only made the immersions, so they were really short courses.
Yep.
But I mean, if I can't make it live, I usually watch it like the week after if I can.
Yes, yeah.
And then it's hard to say how much time. I just try to play with the things I learned there. So if there's a piece we learned in the course, I'm trying to play that.
Yep.
Yes.
So it's probably how long is a piece of string in that for the immersions, really. It's whether you something's really caught your attention that you want to learn, or whether it was just a concept course where it's going to get integrated into everything you're doing.
Yes.
So I think with some of the immersions you can show up for the 2-hour live or watch the replay, and that's it. You've done your work, because it's then you're going to integrate it into all your harping. And then there are others where I'm showing you a piece and you can come back and, like Lorraine's just said about revisiting, you can go in and sometimes there are play alongs and things, aren't there, or improvise alongs of things. So yeah. Oh, thank you, Demetra. That's brilliant.
I really enjoyed the dynamic harps.
Oh, great. Yes. Yeah. Oh, well, it's been wonderful, because you've done some of the collaboration videos and things as well, haven't you? So it's been really great to have you on board. So yeah, if anyone's watching this and you think, I don't want to take any courses at the moment, come for free to Dynamic Harps just once a month and meet the lovely global harp family as well. Fantastic. Okay, lovely. Thank you, guys, and apologies this has run over time. This isn't going to take more than a second, but I'm going to email everybody who's come these discount codes. So there is START HARP. If you are on Patreon, there will be different discount codes, so hold off until you get the Patreon email. There will be bigger discounts for people on Patreon. But there is a START HARP code for £30 off any of the courses. You can take 2, which gives you 1 half price as well. So I'll send you out that. It's a £10 discount code off any of the immersions, pop with Pizazz or modes, that's going to go out as well. And I've shared with you a couple of my favorite ones, things that I think have been real game changers for people: the Hands Together Pattern Buster one and the Metronome Magic one. And then last but not least, there's a short course, which is the Technique Booster course. So if you are literally interested just in finessing your technique, this is a short course where you go, I go over some of the foundation techniques. For instance, if you were thinking, I want to do START HARP 2, but I might miss out on the START HARP 1 technique, but I've been playing the harp for 5 years already, then you might find that taking the booster course and level 2 might just be exactly what you're looking for. Feel free to email me, info@harpwales.com. I will send that out in the email as well with the replay, and ask, if you're wanting some help on choosing. But there we are. That's the discount codes that will come to you. The free course will come to you. The replay will come to you. If you're watching the replay, thank you for coming. If you're here live, thank you for those of you who came live to this session. Thank you if you came live to the previous session as well. And Kate finally is finishing off by saying, don't ever feel intimidated by the amount of content. Just work through it at your own speed. You can revisit it. Things that seem difficult at first will eventually make sense. This is true as well. So the courses are busy. If you haven't got the time to put in hours and hours a week, you know, lots of people are saying that they were spending 3 or 4 or 5 hours a week on the courses. But if you haven't got that much time, you have got the access long term to all these courses. And once you're in the Facebook groups, the courses, they become a community of that course as well that you can stay in forever. So thank you very much. Thank you. And I look forward to hopefully teaching you in summer 2022. Thank you. And we'll stop here. Bye-bye.